So, acapella beatboxing tutorial. I'm gonna give my little spiel and then I'll do the mechanics later, okay? So, every single beatboxer starts with four basic sounds of the repertoire: the kick drum, TS snare, the K snare, and then the PS snare. There's tons of variations on this, but these are the fundamentals, your bread and butter for any beatboxer. And for an acapella beatboxer like yourself, probably all you're going to need. So, let's get into it. By the end of today, I'm hoping that you will be able to do just those 8 beats. Okay? So, let's break it down. The most difficult sound, but the most fundamental sound is your kick drum. The reason why it's so difficult is because you probably haven't developed the muscles yet from just everyday talking. The other sound you can find in everyday speech, but there isn't really a analog for a good kick drum in modern day English. And so we're going to try to develop these muscles. And so a lot of what learning how to do the kick drum is trying to make your language work for you. What I mean by that is, let's just start by saying any B word at all. Okay? I prefer the word background because it's just got a nice flow to it. Background. So let's do the mechanic part first, because that's the difficult part. Let's do mechanics first. So the mechanically, it is, and I'm gonna move away from the mic a little bit. So if I dim out, you're focusing the air into a specific point and then pushing that air through by force. Like that. So as you push the air, the escaping kick creates a kick drum. All right? Now, the way to practice this is by saying any B word. Like I said before, I prefer background. Now, really, when you say this word, emphasize the B. Background, background, background. The reason why we use a word is because having the extra vowel allows you to remember to keep the air flowing through. So when I do right, I'm not just stopping my breath and then and letting the air stop. I'm actually breathing through it. Right? So you need to do the same. And the best way to do that is by using a word. So we'll start with the word. I choose background. Use whatever B word you like. We're going to do it 5 times, okay? Background, 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 background. So now that you've got that background, right, you've got a good sense of, or if you don't have it yet, keep practicing, a sense of the air flowing through your throat, flowing from your lungs through your mouth outside, right? And then using your lips as the muscle to keep that air tight and push it through, right? So once that kind of makes sense, we can shorten it to just a and a vowel. Background goes to ba, 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 right? It's shorter, but the concept is still there. Pushing the air through, not stopping it too early, right? So let's do that 5 times. Ba, 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 ba. Okay? So you've gone from background to ba, and then finally it's different shape, unless if you want to go keep your mouth open, that's totally fine. All I care about is that the air goes through. So, same thing, right? Just imagine now that you're saying ba or background or whatever came easier to you. Background, ba, ba. Let's do that 5 times. Background, ba, ba. Background, ba, ba. Background, ba, ba. Background, ba, ba. One more time. Background, ba, ba. Okay. All right. So, in a little history, actually, a fun fact about boots and cats is that that's the idea behind boot, is by doing the boot, right? Boot and cut and boot and cut and boot and cut, right? By keeping that, by saying those words, you're actually keeping the air flowing through, which is what actually something we want. So, boots and cats. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. TS snare. It is probably the simplest of all, so don't overthink this one. It's just TS. You can position it anywhere. So, like for example, in the center, on the other side, or on the other side. It really is personal preference, and as you beatbox more, that personal preference come out. But for right now, a good way to find out that personal preference is to just do a bunch of them in a row. So let's do like 10 in a row, right? So we just go. For me, I like to deviate just a little bit to the left, right? But you could be different, right? So just keep trying them. Now, the important part right now is not to get them fast, but get them clean, because they are a fundamental flowing unit, right? So, if you ever have a beat that has a lot of heavy sounds and you don't want it to just be broken up by silence, right? Then you want to use a TS. But the TS means that that area now has definition, and you want to give that definition a good sense of clarity. So find out what's comfortable, but make sure you're doing it very clearly. So, how do you practice clarity? Clarity comes through the enunciation of the t. To you, that may sound like nothing, and so I'm going to explain. TS is, of course, two sounds, t and s, right? If you wanted to, you can emphasize a t or emphasize a s, right? Just picking one, right? Or having a balance in between, right? So if you want to make something really sharp, really go in on the t and hold back on this. So in trap beats, for example, you're almost just going right, almost just T's with no with nothing, right? So you can have a right. Or if you want to be a little bit slower, keep things nice and smooth, emphasizing the S. Right? But the important part is to pick a lane really, and then kind of live in it, right? If you're doing something basic like a then that's totally fine. Have it nice and balanced, but make sure that you understand that what you're doing is technically two sounds, a t and a s, into a t. All right. So that's a more advanced tip. So don't sweat that too much. Really, the only important thing you need to know from that part is just and then doing and then trying to find a nice comfortable spot for you. Everything else I just said can be further on. Next up is the K snare, or inward and outward Ks. For right now, probably 98% of the beatboxing world prefers inward K snares. But for your sake, and for everyone who starts out, I'm going to teach you outward K, because that's the sound you've been making all your life. So the outward K snare is just a K. Kickball, cart, kindle, right? And the same trick that can be applied here. You want to make sure that when you say it, it helps to keep the air going through, not just doing a k and then stopping, right? So say words if it helps, right? Kindle, cart. I recommend using, in this specific case, using K A words, because that's usually how your mouth will end up after doing an outward K snare, right? That's why in boots and cats, it's not boots and kittens, it's boots in cats, right? So, right. So let's try that. Just the K snare, ka. Start with, I'm going to use the word cart. It's totally up to you what you want to use. Just using a C or a K word and really giving emphasis to the K. Carts, 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 carts. Okay? So, let's do that again. Carts, cart, carts, carts. And then change shortening carts down to just ka, right? K, ka, 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 ka. So this leads me to an important point of, at this point you may have noticed, or maybe you noticed sooner because you're smarter than I am, that a lot of this is using air to make up for muscle. As you learn to beatbox more or as you practice more, you will develop muscles in your face that will help you beatbox easier, which means using less air. But for right now, use all the air you need. The important part is making sure that each individual sound has emphasis, right? So rather than doing like a but and making it weak, right? I would prefer if you do cut, and you just breathe every other turn. Okay? So keeping that in mind, right now you don't have any muscles. Or you do, but not enough. And so has to come from that breath. Okay? So now we got those two sounds. I like to add them in together. Okay, so remember how we had 2, 3, 4, right? We're trying to make boots and cats. Then we're going to go. Okay. All right. So that's too much. Go back. Try it again. Take your time. I really want to emphasize any sound is a good sound. Just keep practicing and you'll have a click or a moment and you'll realize you've gotten it. Okay? But don't be afraid of practice. Right? So, with that in mind, this is the most difficult sound in this repertoire because it involves a kick drum. Doing it properly is definitely tough. So, let's start with this. The PF snare is a fundamental in all rock and roll type beats. It's a kick drum with a f at the end. We say PF because it eventually softens out to PF, but it could be a BF snare. You could do okay? But for right now, I'm going to teach you. It's a little bit easier because the emphasis isn't really on the or the f, but on the sound in the middle. That's why I think it's very difficult. So, there are a couple ways of doing this. Firstly, I like to teach it like this. It's like Sesame Street. You just take the two sounds and combine them together. So start with a P sound. I used to do pa, like pa, just to get to your mouth. That's just to get your mouth in the correct position. So, okay? Yours may not be as clean, and that's totally fine, right? But let's do it again. Okay? Now, if P isn't working for you, I said before, you can switch to B, right? So if you want to do a kick drum and then add an F at the end of it, that's also fine. But once again, the key is breathing through it. Okay? Okay. So now there are a couple of tricks that you can do. Two tricks, really. The sound should involve you putting your two front teeth, your two buck teeth, on the front of your lip. Okay? So I'm gonna move with the mic to show you, but it was gonna look something like this. Yes, you're gonna look dumb as hell when you do this. Right there on your bottom lip. Okay? So, in order to help that process along, make an angry face, right? So really cheese it up, right? Ham it up, right? So don't just go and really scrunch your face together. It'll help a lot, trust me. Okay? Because really that quality comes from the middle of that sound, which isn't actually a P or F. It's the okay? All right. And then the next trick. An important part of the snare, PF snare, is impact. Without any impact, you're just going to be making the sound and f, right? And carrying the air through is important, right? And so the way we emulate that is with the sneeze. And if you have to hit a dab while you're doing it, I did the same thing, I understand. All right? So I'm going to show you. So instead of just going, right? Make like a sneeze. Give it a really burst impact. Okay? So instead of just, you should do, okay? So instead of, and it's being very relaxed, a lot of impact will help you a great deal here. Motion will help you kind of get the impact on it until you can do it by yourself. Like I said, as of right now, a lot of what we're going to be doing is making up for the lack of muscle with other features. Your rest of your body, breathing, right? All right, so let's do that 5 times. Don't give yourself whiplash. Don't knock your headphones over like I am doing. But let's try it again. So instead of it's a little messy, but it'll work. And you'll be spinning everywhere. Trust me. One more time, okay? Whew, okay. So, with that in mind, let's now create your first beat. So you can do whatever you want for your first beat, incorporating those 4 sounds. And in fact, I encourage you to go and find your beat. But if you don't have any ideas, here's a suggestion. Just doing your basic and then every once in a while alternating your K and PF snare. So if you want to notate this, it would be B, TS, K, TS, B, TS, PF, TS. Okay? Just basically a kick drum, a snare, and then a specialized snare with a regular snare, and then a kick drum again. Okay? So we're just gonna go. Okay? All right, good. Now I'm going to do a practice basically. So if you were just practicing, skip all the way to this point in the video, and this is just going to be me doing each of the sounds correctly over and over again, just so you can hear it and then you can practice along. Okay? Starting with kick drum. One more time. Now TS. One more time. And then K snare. One more time. And then finally PF snare. One more time. Okay. And then putting them all together. Okay? I hope this makes sense, and good luck.